Welcome to today's webinar entitled Revolutionizing Project Management Through Artificial Intelligence. Our guest speaker today will be Kristian Bainey, and one of his relatives, I think he calls him his father, may add some color along the way. Kristian, I'm not going to provide much more detail other than this topic. It just couldn't be any more timely. We have been addressing the relevance of project management and addressing issues of productivity in our country, problems of failures, and now we've got the introduction and the usage of artificial intelligence to try and improve project management itself. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and take us on this journey. So welcome.
Today's topic is on project management with artificial intelligence, a guide for project management. So I call it, the buzzword is like either revolutionizing or supercharging. A lot of people like to use the word supercharging because it sounds kind of cool, but it means the same thing. So you'll see those two words a lot out there. But all it is really taking the skills that a project manager has, right, and the abilities that that person has and advancing it with emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence. So this presentation will teach you a little bit of how you can do that for your everyday tasks or job that you have that you would like to go further and to merge your technology skills and to see how much time you could save and quicker that your job would be, where you can concentrate on more complex tasks other than mediocre tasks that can be done augmentatedly or automatedly. Okay. So my name is Kristian. I have over 15 years experience in project management. I specialize in project management in AI. I have education in it and a certificate program from MIT as well. I'm from Edmonton, Alberta. I'm also the president of Northern Alberta Project Management Institute. And yeah, I work closely with the global head of PMI as well to, giving him help with advisory and curriculum information that they're trying to, what they are producing in the industry. So let's just go right ahead into it here. Well, this is also a lot. There's actually more, but this was last year. Of the presentations that I've done, a lot were live and a lot were webinars as well too. So I've done this many times in different aspects, whether it's just totally AI or project management with AI or different concepts that people kind of want to learn more of, whether it's security or ethics or biasness, fairness, or just how to use AI, ChatGPT itself. Okay. So ChatGPT, if you guys don't know, I'm sure you guys have known it before, but here's the thing. ChatGPT came out in March 30th, 2022. And at that time, it took 1 million users to sign up for Twitter around that time, 24 months. And Facebook took 10 months. Spotify took 5 months for 1 million users. Instagram 2.5. And then actually from November 30th took apps world-breaking record for 5 days for 1 million users to register for ChatGPT. So you can think about what it is today. It's actually probably over 200 million, I would say. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember last time I spoke about that, which was months ago, it was 100 million. So I'm guessing 200, but it's still a lot very quick, right? So with this tool that does basically everything of everything that any subject or any topic, you must be thinking, well, how can this help me with project management? So that's where I started studying a lot on it and just actually publishing a book on it that's coming out from Wiley Publishing April 23rd. And I've kind of grasped every area in ChatGPT and all of artificial intelligence in the world of project management. And that's what my book is on. But here we only have like 30 minutes, but I'm going to try to give you a good tutorial on it. Okay, so that's ChatGPT. So what is ChatGPT? ChatGPT is like your friendly AI assistant. That's something that knows everything about everything. That's really what it is. It's a chatbot. You're having conversational text with this robot that just really knows everything about everything, or at least something. I'm not saying everything is 100% correct because it's not, but it knows a lot and it's pretty accurate out there. For example, it has written the PMP, it has written the MCAT, it has written the LSAT, it has written I can't remember MBA from different universities, and it has scored 80 or higher percent in all of them, as far as I remember. So that is amazing. So you put this in front of the MCAT exam or LSAT or PMP, and to score around 80%, I mean, come on, it's got to know something of it, and it's getting more smarter as the public uses it every day. So the first version, which is a free version, is called ChatGPT 3.5. It runs off this technology model that this model makes the conversational aspect of artificial intelligence to speak with a human, okay, and to understand a human. And so we can understand them too. And so there's a free version called 3.5 that when it first came out. So you could sign up with ChatGPT on this site here or go OpenAI and you can get the free version if you want. Now, I highly recommend paying $20 USD because you get ChatGPT 4 or the latest one, which will be ChatGPT 5, I don't know, by November or something like that of this year. And you're going to get a lot of more functionality and accuracy. Okay, so the accuracy is the main thing, and the functionality using different types of what you call GPTs are basically plugins in it. They are plugins, what they call in GPTs, where it's called generative pre-trained transformers. That's what GPT stands for. When you can access specific information that already is built in for you. So if you want to look up scholar information, if you want to there's basically everything. It's like an Apple store. If you want to look up or use it for educational purposes or language purposes or tutoring or math or anything like that, right? Maybe math is not the best. They're still trying to work on that, but basic mathematics, yes. But they have those out there that are basically what you call fine-tune at a high level GPTs for users. It's like an app store, just think of it like that, and you can download it. You might not like it, you can uninstall it and go from there. So how this GPT works is that it accesses billions of data from the internet. That's how it works. So all books, published articles, websites, creditable stuff like that, right? It's all over the internet. And the internet is huge. It's like cyberspace, of course. And that's where to get its information from. Okay. So what it does is it stores into what you call like a container of information. So I had a data source up to, I believe, April 2023. Could be wrong, but that's the last time. And it has a data set of all this information in the world that's in there that a human can never go through, right? Not as fast as a computer, obviously, but it does have that, and it's pre-trained. Now, there's other, so does that mean that it's only can use data up to 2000 April 2021? Actually, only 3.5 can. But if you get the 4 or the paid version, what it does, it still has that capacity of information and better accuracy, probably like 60% better accuracy, and it can go into the internet and get live real-time data and compare it to. So if you want to look up the Oilers hockey score or whatever like that, you can ask it and it will go to through Bing and look it up or yesterday's forecast or all that kind of stuff. It can still do that through Bing web browser. So the paid version will be able to do that. Anyways, so it performs tasks, right? So the key thing that you want to know is that when dealing with models for ChatGPT, you're thinking of probably robots. So this is going to take out all of the jobs out there. Well, let me tell you something. It may take out some analyst or coordinator type jobs that GPTs can do automated diagrams for or models. But what does that mean? Does that mean that this person's job is going to be lost? I don't think so. What I actually think is that, and I actually know, is that they would be having that job, but the position will change. Okay. So they would require the same occupation to have this other skill, and the other skill will be some type of AI. Can you use this tool? Are you familiar with fine tuning? Can you use GPTs to create diagrams on the fly? Can you do turn state and gap analysis for me just by prompting it correctly? And that's the key thing. What is a huge thing that's out there? It's a buzzword called prompt engineering. And you have to remember that word because that's going to make it make history. And they already have major high-paying jobs for that in the States and Europe and China. I'm sure India and Australia too. I named those countries because they're extremely high into AI. Okay, on Canada, number one would be Ontario. The States is actually California. Not a surprise, but it is California. Um, so what you want to take away from anything is that AI cannot replace empathy and sympathy. Okay. And to have real emotional intelligence comes from a human. So real empathy, putting yourself into somebody else's shoes, right? Sympathy, or sorry, that's sympathy. And empathy, knowing what your audience is and how you're going to cater to them. You could tell them who they are, but do they really know? They can't see, right? It's not a human brain. So empathy and real emotional intelligence and sympathy is something that cannot be replaced by a robot or in our lifetime. And that's coming from me. People may argue with that. I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime for sure. That's just me. Other people may have their views on it, but when using artificial intelligence, it's still not perfected. Just like mathematics is not perfected with GPT and these models, right? They can do basic project management calculations, basic math calculations, but if you ask to give it fancy algebra or all that kind of stuff, no, it will give you an answer, but most likely won't be the correct answer. So I'll tell you how you get into that and how do you identify as we go further. Okay. So this is a good app. ChatGPT has an app that you can download on your mobile phone that you could use. It's a really good one, but the POE one is one I actually like. Now it does say you have to pay and it may change, but if you just fiddle around with it, you get a good maybe, I don't know, 50 messages a day kind of use it. But it's not just ChatGPT, it's ChatGPT 3.4, it's ChatGPT 4, it's Claude 2, it's all the different large language models, what you call it, out there. So you can compare it on yourself. Now, ChatGPT is still the smartest one out there from all these GPTs that are available in the world. Now, they use different models, but if you're going to really technical, ChatGPT can use other types of models like DaVinci or their own custom model if a developer does it from scratch. So I'm only talking about the default models that come that everybody thinks, oh, ChatGPT just has one model. ChatGPT actually has 12, but you only see one model. You only get to play around with one model. But if you were to fine tune it or make it through code, there's a whole list of OpenAI comes with a whole bunch of different models that you can use otherwise. Okay, so these are the default ones. Um, okay, so benefits of ChatGPT. So you see how I highlighted, I'll let you read this, but how I highlighted data analysis and automation. I should have augmentation in there as well too. That's the key thing of what the benefits of ChatGPT is. It's real data analysis, better understanding of behaviors and customers, right? You can think about employees, criminal law and whatnot. It can scan through a lot of documents to get a good understanding, so you could train it to understand what your ask is, right? So it does predictive analytics. It also does prescription analytics for what doctors would be using in the future. Okay. To analyze medicine and people's um illness or whatnot to make a better decision. So that's what you call augmentation. Augmentation, right, is not so much automation. Automation is like, think of it like this, a human being pressing a button and does it for you. What is that? That's like an email, sending an email, right? That's like doing anything. You press a button or a couple clicks and it just does it for you. Like Excel, you could do a pivot table, you could do a lookup, um, drop down list box, right? And get a whole bunch of information and then get all this calculation all this results that you want. So that's like automated. You can do automation of stuff like that. Augmentation is more, it has to involve the human. So the human at the end of the day will make the decision. So for example, like when you're taking a doctor's as an example, right? You could run a lot of scripts, a lot of code analysis, right, on somebody's illness. And it can give you all these great results of how you think you would go about prolonging this person's health or helping them way more advanced than without any of this information. Now, how cool is that? Which they use that today in cardiology and neurology and every type of ology out there that they have it. So they run it, and augmentation means that the um, the the more advanced doctor that has these skills will make the definition of the options and the information presenting to them, which saves time. They can concentrate on more of tasks with the customer or the patient, understanding their needs, when they can look at a couple of suggested 5 remedies or pills or whatever, and the doctor could say, I do agree with that. Let's try this one out here. So it helped you about 80% of the stuff. So this is just all analytics and augmentation. That's what automation means, and a very quick synopsis. Okay. Okay, let's move on here. So this is kind of technical, and I'm not going to go into it. This is a model I'm not going to go into detail, that I developed here, and what it is how does ChatGPT actually work behind the scenes? It's an input processing. So you person it's just like in Google, right? It's basically kind of like a Google, but on steroids in a different way. So you put in your input in the processing thing, and then it tokenizes it. And what tokenization means is it divides the input into tokens, which can represent whole words or subwords. It's kind of like how it reads it, and it embeds it into large language models. And that goes through a whole type of learning through vectors and calculations that only a machine can understand, or algorithms can understand. So it's a whole bunch of ones and zeros and all these algorithms that you'll never understand unless you're a data scientist or something like that. But it's just too much information anyways for a human to analyze all this stuff. But what it does, the main thing that you want to look at is an NLP. That is the main thing. If you take away anything from this, when you talk about ChatGPT or artificial intelligence, that's conversational, look at natural language processing. It takes the machine learning's algorithms and it makes it so humans can understand it, and so we can understand them. And that all happens through natural language processing, basically, right? Goes a lot into more depth, but basically that's what it is. The transformer neutral network is nothing but a computer brain. So it calculates it all like this, and the computer has a brain just like us, and that's where it deals with calculations and decisions and suggestions. And then it outputs it to us. And what happens? The human makes a decision. That's really what it is. If you want to read more, I'll send you these slides or the PDF, and you could read more. Why it says refine and train models, that just means the more you use it, the more the public uses it, the smarter it gets. Okay. So the more that we use it, the smarter it's trained, and the smarter it gets based on user feedback. So prompt engineering. So look at this. So every time you do a prompt engineer um, request, what you're really doing is you're asking it for information. So just to get you a good look of it, um, I'll take an example here. And now every time you use ChatGPT, you will always get a different answer. So this, I will never get this answer. What I'm going to be getting, I have no idea. Okay. Well, I have an idea, but I don't know exactly the context, the content, right? So this is ChatGPT 4. This is ChatGPT 3, the free version, but as you can see, I want to use the 4 version. Here's where the plugins are I was talking about, right? So you could scale all of this. This is where you could do a lot of diagrams, movie guides, CEC writing. It's just like the App Store. This is like almost everything, imagery, everything. Okay. But I'm not going to get into that. We don't have enough time for that. So let's go to 4. So if I type in this and I put, as a senior project manager, identify unusual or innovative problem-solving techniques within project management that I could use in every day. So let's see what it comes back and says. Says something's unusual. So pre-mortem analysis. I'm not sure if you got heard of that, but game storming. There's something else. There's a 5 whys technique. Yes, we know that. Mind mapping, probably know that. Lean coffee. Never heard of that one. Reverse brainstorming. So you see how fast that was that it gave me this information. Now I can just say, hey, what's lean? What's lean coffee? So give me detail for 5. So it knows what number 5 is. So then it's going to go in that. So then now you're really chatting with the bot, and you're really understanding, you getting more detail of what you're wanting to learn. So here it goes.
Okay.
Okay, so as you can see, here's my prompt, right? And here's ChatGPT 4, and here's ChatGPT 3.5, and here's where the plugins are. Okay. So here's what I said. Give me informal way. Now, this is what it came out with. Post-mortem analysis, game storming, reverse brainstorming, and all this stuff. And then I said, give me some detail on number 5, right? So number 5 was lean coffee. So that's where it came out and said you can do something like this, wrapping up why it works, and you can have a good conversation with it. So here's a good little framework to use for a project manager. You act as a role. What is your role? Like a project manager, and you have an ask and you put in your content, and then you ask for a format and a tone. So what am I doing here? I'm going to say act as a project manager, what's my ask? Create a sample statement of work for developing a web application. What's my context? Well, I want to win quantifiable results. What's my format? I want it in a table format. And what do I want to do? I want to use it in a formal tone. Okay. So if you get that and you follow this, this will be your best buddy to using ChatGPT if you're a beginner. Okay. If you wanted to be pre-trained for every question that you have in the same window, then you would put this. I want you to act as a senior IT project manager for every question I have with quantifiable results. Use a personal tone. Ready? Now the ready is just for it to come back and say it understands. So it's just good for you to know that it comprehended what your ask was, right? So now you could put in your questions. I suggest as a project manager, right, to use short, clear, and concise sentences. Limit the scope and then revise the prompt. Don't put in a lot of long information because you're going to be keeping going back and revising, and you probably have 10 revisions, maybe 20. That only works really good for like maybe programmers or whatnot. Okay. For project management, my advice is definitely to be short, clear, and concise. Use limit scope and revise as you go. And you probably only have to revise maybe 2 or 3 times, but you're self-teaching yourself. So think about it this way. When you come back and do the same thing, you'll probably, for another example, for another scenario, you'll probably remember exactly what you put in before. I'm going to show you. So there's different tones, okay, that you could use. The different tones that you could use are something like this. I just want to show you really quick. You could use neutral tone, friendly tone, informal. I like to use encouraging, empathetic, and persuasive. Let's say I'm not good at writing emails and I want to be empathetic or encouraging. I would write out my email exactly how I would write it normally and then say, please revise it or rephrase it in a encouraging tone. It will then give me supportive and motivation or a motivative email. Or I want to be empathetic. If you're doing a business case, you want money from the sponsor, right? So we want to be persuasive. So why not use a persuasive tone in it? And then after, of course, you're not just going to give the information in, you're going to customize it to be how you would put it in, but it will save you much time, maybe 80%, maybe sometimes 90% of the work. Okay. So let's see. Let's now summarization is a huge one. So I picked summarization here and I picked a book. I picked a book that is not a project management book on purpose. So let's go back here. Okay, so here. Now, what am I saying? Let's say that you're at your office and everybody's talking about this new book that came out and it's called um uh Business at the Speed of Thought by Bill Gates, right? Now you have the finance department has read it, the HR, IT, your IT, you haven't read it yet, but billing has read it, all the different departments have read it, and they keep on talking about it. And you don't really have time to read a 1,000-page book or 500-page book. You just don't have the time. So what would I do? I would summarize it because it's a well-known book. It actually will know the book that I'm talking about. So give me an easy to understand summary of the book. Business at the Speed of Thought by Bill Gates, related to project management, and use United Kingdom as an example. This was from my previous example when I was speaking to United Kingdom. So you could put and use software. You know what? Let's put this and use, let's say if I'm in IT, software applications as an example. Okay. So let's see what it comes back and does for me. So business at the speed of thought. What it's doing, it's giving me a little quick synopsis of what it is. Then it goes and says, at the core, this book advocates for digital tools to streamline information within an organization. So Gates envisions a world with businesses harnessing power, right? Um, and effectively speeding up decision making. So now it goes into how it relates to software applications, right? Within, and how it relates to project management, summary, relation, project management, and it has a good conclusion. You can ask it for more detail, but at that point, that's where you would have your understanding that took you 5 minutes instead of reading 500 pages, right? Now, will this work for every book out there? Not really. I mean, people ask me, what about your book that's coming out? Can you do that? Yeah, you most likely could, but it's more practical guide, so it won't really help. But for books that are all like real theory and stuff like that, or novels, yeah, this is perfect to use. Okay, here's a typical example for making a decision. Now, artificial intelligence is really about helping a human to make decisions, right? Of course it is. So I want to actually use the data analyst function here. Okay, so I am working as a software development facing a decision, outsourcing or hiring in-house designer. Outsourcing costs 20 grand upfront, 5 months for 6 months. Hiring in-house will cost 60 grand. Show me the total cost for each and use and whatever, right? Okay, so I'm going to do that. Let's see what it comes back with. Okay, so it came back with showing me a calculation of outsourcing and in-house, and it showed me upfront costs and whatnot. In-house is 60, right? And outsource is 50. But what does it just say? It said, consider the financial aspect. Outsourcing may appear to be more cost-effective option for your project. However, it's also important to consider other factors over, quality of output, long-term needs for making a decision. So you can ask her, tell me more, because maybe you're not thinking the whole picture, that maybe just by paying an extra 10 grand, you can get somebody in-house, and that could be good for long-term aspects. So again, it's giving you a good understanding of what your options are, and then what you do. The human makes a decision at the end of the day, but it's trying to make you that understand that there's other options out there that you might be missing or you might overlooked, right? So it's trying to enforce that there's other factors out there. Okay, so there's a lot of tips and tricks in here. Um, there's Here's what you could do in project management. There's a whole bunch of different deliverables you can do. Okay, agile stories, personas. We don't have enough time to go through, of course, but that's just a good glimpse. Now, some tips and tricks. I will send you the PDF on this, but what you really want to know is that really keep it clear and concise, and if you want to give it instructions, what you call parameters, use brackets. So it's basically telling it in the background, I want you to do this, but that's not my prompt, but I would like this to happen. So if I say, give me 100 words or something like that, or don't use this specific word, or only give me a records with a letters starting with the letter P, it will know that. So within the brackets, it's what you call parameters or instructions that you can actually give the the chatbot itself. So with that being said, this is my book here, and it's being released 2024, April. So next month, end of next month. So it has a lot great practical examples. It's about 400 pages. It has examples like you wouldn't believe, and I've had gotten the top the best of the best to the review the book. So there's a lot of great things that teaches you about agile methodologies, the different types, and security, bias, how to implement into your organization. What principles should I be using? What's the future of ChatGPT? What's the future of artificial intelligence specifically? Right? It's first of its kind, and it's published by Wiley. It's going to be a great book. I encourage you to, of course, I'm biased to it, to purchase it, but it is a original, first of its kind. Here's my LinkedIn if you like to scan your phone on here or just look me up. You could just put Kristian Bainey and I will be on there. So what I could do now is I could leave time for some questions.
Christian, that was superb. I mean, it was more than AI specific to project management. It was sort of an orientation 101 to ChatGPT. But one of the questions that did emerge is you made comment that this is the best, and yet I've seen Claude recently, what Claude is capable of doing, and I'm not going to argue whether one is better than another, but this is a competition. This is not a end game by any means. Do you want to
Yeah.
comment how fast the competitors are coming along?
Okay. Yeah, sure. So Claude is always competing with ChatGPT, and there's going to be a lot of times where there's going to be periods where it's working better than ChatGPT 4 or 3.5, right? But that doesn't necessarily, I can't keep up to date with all of the statistics on the different models, but I do know every month or so it's just balancing of who's better, who's not. But from what I remember, when I was reading, is that the different models in ChatGPT are very, very much advanced. And I'm sure the Claude 2 has a very much advanced models as well too. I haven't have an analysis of it, or I can't read all about it, but I do know when I was doing this research and reading about through OpenAI and Azure OpenAI services and different scholar articles out there that just came out a few months ago. The number one was talking about this ChatGPT or DaVinci, their model versus other models, but they gave a different rank. Now, a lot of other people were giving you different ranks as well too. Which one's 100%? I don't know, but of course, this demonstration is on ChatGPT, but it will work the same way in Claude. But you have to remember specifically what is are you trying to do? Are you trying to do data analysis, like a lot of like charts or pies or whatever like that? Because I do know that works really well in ChatGPT versus Claude 2. Now, Claude 2 might be have more accurate information in certain subjects, but I'm only specifically speaking about project management and analysis and design and how that could be outputted. But again, I can't give a good, that's just kind of what I believe and what I have read, but I'm not saying I'm 100% correct because it's always changing. It's like, Google's coming out and saying, well, we're the best of this. And then next thing, Azure comes out, we're the best of this. Maybe IBM might come out and say that we got this new feature, right? So that's just my view. I don't think anybody really can keep up to date with all of that because it's revolutionizing every day and it's going to be really hard to keep up.
Are you finding within the context of your work, your career, the environment you work, an anxiety about this rapid evolution and the anxiety of whether people should pick it up or not?
Yeah, well, they should definitely pick it up because like I always compare it to a tsunami. Tsunami has a lot of waves and we're going through like the first wave, right, of AI, but there's like two th to three more and we're that are coming. And these are from guru experts like the CEOs of NVIDIA and Sam Altman speaking about this just the other day. Great video to watch on YouTube is Bill Gates interviews Sam Altman. That came out maybe 3 months ago. One of the best things I've ever heard, and it's really really impressive. But yeah, it's a tsunami, so it's going to come towards you no matter what. Whether you're going shopping, whether you're trying to book travel on your computer, what type of phone you're using. Like I said, at the grocery, how you're going to pay. So the best thing you can do and really do is adapt to it and learn a little bit about it and to how to use it. And don't be afraid because it's just like, okay, think of it like this way. When the calculator first came out, they had protests all over the world, right? People hated this thing. They didn't want it to be in schools. They'll say won't be as smart, right? Now, if you go into school, it's required that you have to use a scientific calculator, right, to write any exam or whatnot. So look at how that changed because people were forced to change it because people are going to be using this. So once they have a good understanding and they have less fear because it's not out there to get you, it's out there to help you to make better decisions. There are going to be adversaries out there that are going to try to make it chaos, but what invention out there that's great that doesn't have some type of chaos, right? So you got to look at it that way. But taking these webinars, researching, and really understanding that artificial intelligence is what it is a way to give a human better information to make better decisions, to save time, to so they can act on more important tasks. That's what really what artificial intelligence is. It's not a robot coming after you and all this kind of stuff like that. You could put it into robots and whatever to do a lot of cool things, obviously, but it's in the hands of the person that wants to treat it well or to make danger out of it. But you can. You heard all these drones going cross countries and doing a lot of you know illegal stuff there. But that's artificial intelligence. It's making its own decision without a human. Well, maybe there's a human in the background, knowing where it wants to go and whatnot. So yes, it can control it like that. But that's not, they're using it for a bad purpose. But you can use that for obviously a good purpose. Like let's say security at the airport and whatnot. You know how much more security there will be at the airport now? That's easier to detect than it was before.
The rate of development is extraordinary. I think we concluded one of our webinars. I think Jeff, you made this comment. Look, we're only into the second year.
Right.
And the gains that are being made in converting images into text, using it for dialogue. You may not be aware, we had a webinar where we created avatars, used ChatGPT to create a dialogue about the future of humor. It was an extraordinary series of dialogues, one being a physician, another one being a teacher, another one being a psychologist. And the robot or the interviewer was just another avatar. So the whole dialogue was all scripted as if it was drama out of Hollywood. We've used it for structuring conferences. We've used it for writing children's stories. We've used it for so many different, I've used it for summarizing notes in long meetings. I've used it for the development of action plans, marketing plans, business plans. You're absolutely right. There is no end to the capacity of these tools. One does need to be a little bit careful. As you've noted, quantitatively, I've seen it's not right up to speed yet. That may be improving. They did say that it could actually interpret tax forms now and fill in the blanks.
Well, TurboTax has a ChatGPT in it now. I never used it, but I heard it has it.
Tommy, you go ahead.
Yeah, I got a book recently, and I opened up the front pages, and there was the usual disclaimer about copyright and all that sort of stuff. And then there was a very interesting paragraph I'd never seen before, and it said, "No part of this book has been written using artificial intelligence." Now, what does that say about how we value artificial intelligence, perhaps compared to human intelligence or human performance?
Well, I think the point is authenticity. I think some might say, I want to just hear from humans. Another one might want to say, I want to hear from more intelligent. I want to draw on humans, but I want to maximize my insights and use what no human being can likely get access to, which is all of the knowledge that's now been generated and daily being increased. I mean, you are speaking, Kristian, to the converted. We've done numerous webinars on this topic, and you're coming back and giving us an overall orientation. I think, well, Yogi, you go ahead.
Thank you, Perry. Good to meet you, Kristian. Appreciate your presentation.
Thanks.
And your work as a project manager and consultant, where have you found that ChatGPT or perhaps its competitors have made you smarter, look better, more effective?
Yeah. So the biggest industries in the world that are taking off with these GPTs or generative AI is what it's called, generative artificial intelligence. What generative AI means is producing new content. What AI means is that it gives you an analysis to make a better decision, but it doesn't necessarily output new audio, text, video, and whatnot. That's a new thing. That's what GPT is. That's generative AI. Anyway, so if you got that, that's great. But the industries that are using it the most and the most powerful is education, military, and healthcare. So education is going to be changing dramatically the curriculum in the future, and they're working on it right now. You can Google all different sites and online courses that are doing it right now. Mhm.
I agree with those examples and I find them fascinating, and I think mankind will receive a lot of value. I've been struggling with the question of how it makes me look better as a project manager or
Oh.
makes the project I'm running more successful and less risky and maybe have higher quality and won't go so far over budget. Those kinds of very fundamental project management questions.
Yeah, so what it does is that it can do a lot for you, and in the sense of making your document even look better by doing cool charts for you or Gantt charts that you don't have to, sit down and do it all the time, or checking even like critical paths and stuff like that, or timelines where you know what it is, you have a good understanding, but then you can put it in and it can analyze it for you and tell you, okay, maybe, you know, you ever think about this activity here, you could save more time that will produce this activity in the long run, maybe give you more float or, you know, or time to do that. So you can do a better analysis by asking it questions like that. Your documents will look a lot better. You can actually use ChatGPT to make these documents in Excel or Word as well too. But think about, all you have to do is really give it a good prompt and a good table of contents, and then it fills in the blanks for you. And what do? You go back and you customize it. So there's a lot of things that you might have missed, or they missed it, and then you ask it to put it in there. It can give you these cool charts, an analysis, and a table that maybe you never thought about even doing, or something that will take like a day to do, and you just don't want to put it in because it takes too long, but it did it for you. And of course, you're going to review and check it. So that's how you come across as better looking as a project manager, because you can do analysis very quickly and save more time on communication as a project manager's majority of their job is, right? Communicating with stakeholders and all that kind of stuff. So all these nitty-gritty tasks, you can do a lot of it, but you're just reviewing and saving a lot more time for communication style, for communication on your team or your vendors or whatnot. So that comes across that you're spending more time and you're more interested in your stakeholders. So that's just something that I think off the top of my head.
Are you comfortable, Yogi and Kristian for sure, in using ChatGPT in quantitative exercises?
Yeah, I've nailed it down. As long as you do, like, I have a lot of those examples in my book, but if you do the framework that I'm talking about, and again, you're going to review it for quantitative analysis, it does an exceptional great job. It really does, if you prompt it correctly. Quantitative, right? Analysis may be a little tricky, but there's a way to do it. But you can still do decision trees and have a calculation on it and whatnot. But you'll have to check that over, and that could be a little tricky. But the quantitative risk analysis and whatnot, it actually does it very well if you prompt it correctly, because it's really not much calculation to do that it confuses it. So the quantitative might be a little tricky, okay? But the qualitative is, I say that it does a good job if you prompt it correctly, of course.
I do a lot of survey work, and survey work and the statistical analysis that go with it are the very foundations of what artificial intelligence has been built up on, is understanding variance, means, medians, distribution, etc. So it would seem to me that this is an extraordinary tool for doing better than what SurveyMonkey or does. So I'm thrilled and I haven't really been applying it in terms of survey analysis, other than what was always a pain in the neck, which was text synthesis, which is obvious that it's superb in that regard. But getting into the capacity to do analysis of variance, to do some of the more high-level statistical work, I'm going to have to give that a try.
Yeah, and I've never checked it out, but I could almost guarantee if I were to check it right now that the ChatGPT store has a GBT for surveys, or probably SurveyMonkey. It's probably attached. Somebody probably have done it already, because it's such a common thing that I don't see why it wouldn't be there. So I bet you it's there. But you should check that out. But you have to get the upgraded version, of course, if you don't have it. And then go in the GPT store, look up survey, see if they have chat SurveyMonkey, and then follow directions. And if you even don't know how, you can ask ChatGPT, give me step-by-step instructions of how to use this survey, and it will do it. So you should check that out. Then that's how you'll learn. You can upload files to ChatGPT, the new version too, and it can do analysis on it. You can upload any type of file, basically, even videos, MP4s or MP3s. So it's kind of narrow for the information it gives back, like minimal in those files, but in Word files, Excel files, PowerPoint files, all that, it does a pretty good job. Again, if you know how to prompt it correctly and to tell it how to read it. If you just upload and say, here, read it, it's like garbage in, garbage out, right? So you got to prompt it to tell it specifically what you're looking for, and then find whatever you're looking for after. You have to revise it, like I said, limited scope, but revise it, and you'll get your answer eventually.
Well, thank you. I mean, one of my roles here in this format or forum is to be a prompter. Go ahead, Mel.
Just a couple of things. You said earlier about 1 million people in 5 days. I think I qualified in that first million because I got on December 2nd. But
Yeah,
being retired, I've got the luxury of reading, asking questions, and then stepping back and looking at different technologies and trying to merge them to see what can come from them. And, one of the things that I found is that even though I'm sure some of the people here in retirement as well, you find that you don't really have an awful lot of time. You can keep yourself pretty busy. And I've, you mentioned something about looking at videos there, Perry. I've got onto a subscription where there's a number of videos that come out of Geneva, Switzerland, and Naples, and so on. But some of these things happen at 5 in the morning or something like that, and I might not even be awake at that time. So they are recorded. And one of the neat things about it is that you can get on and take the link to those videos and provide it to one of these AIs and get this language model to give you a nice, concise summary. But as you mentioned, I think what we have to do, Kristian, is, as you showed as an example here, is to really construct that prompt well. Give it a little bit of an idea of what this subject is about and tell it what position you want it to take. I've tried it, just, please summarize kind of thing, and give it a real good paragraph to position this thing. And it was day and night getting results.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So in my book, she speaks about this, is if you're having difficulty with your prompt, but you know what it looks like, you give it an example, a hypothetical example, and you say, I want the output to look like this. This is a hypothetical example, but this is, and then you write it and you say, this is what I want it to look like. Then it actually will understand a lot better. If you're having difficulty with your prompt, that can be a huge help. And that script for YouTube videos, like, the GPT is called Vox Script. It's awesome. So you could use like a 3-hour video and actually give you a summary and give you a good thing. It's called Vox, VOX Script, but that's in the paid version too, but it works. I use it all the time.
Just one quick question here. The difference between, if I look at a classical computer essentially running AIs, which is essentially what's going on now, much greater capacity than the one I have sitting here on my desk, obviously. But if we look at the development of algorithms to solve issues that are very, very, well, next to impossible for current classical computers. If you use a quantum computer, I don't know if you've looked into this or not, but they're extremely expensive to running in a cryogenic environment and all that type of stuff. I've had some discussions with some people at U of C on this type of thing, and they have alluded to the fact that there's some work going on where quantum computers can be used to essentially develop algorithms that eventually can be used in a classical computing environment. So it gives the classical computer sort of a leg up to solve a problem that would otherwise take it a long time. It's giving it the shortcuts, my own language.
If what quantum computing is doing is deriving algorithms, synthesis, and then feeding that to your more basic computer and say, here's the formula which you can use in future.
Okay. No, I just had a question, Kristian. in terms of your use of ChatGPT and the paid version, there are some custom GPTs that have been fine-tuned for the project management setting in particular. And I wonder, I think there's a dozen or so there. There's one that has over 5,000 uses. I wonder if you've checked any of those out, and how have you found those in the project management context? Because I would think that that would have been already pre-trained on some project management specifics that would benefit you instead of going in from scratch.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to look at the ones that have a lot of uses, or there's a tab called popular, I think. And you click the popular ones, majority of the people are using that. The other ones may not even work. And if you see like 10 people using it, you probably don't want to use it. But the ones that have a high amount of users use it. Yeah, I use a lot of those GPTs. So like I said, I use those GPTs are nothing but a fancy way of doing a plugin. Because before that's what they are. They're plugins.
Yeah.
And so my favorite one is whimsical diagrams. Okay. It's called whimsical diagrams, and you can do business analysis diagrams off of it just by typing or data analysis. And I like Scholar AI. If I'm asking, I used it a lot for my book when I'm trying to support evidence on an actual scholar from Cornell University or Harvard or something like that. It will actually take what I wrote myself, and without me going to the library or searching all over the internet for something that's supporting my thesis, right? It comes back and it shows me right away that this paper has been written in China or something, and it's published in Harvard by this person, and you know it's real, and it supports it. So that's another great one I like. And there's another one that I like is Vox Script. I told you about that one. The number one that I use. I totally forgot about it. It's called Data Analyst. So the Data Analyst one you want to use. The Vox Script one you want to use. Whimsical Diagrams you want to use.
And the data, why do you like that one?
Because it does all the pie charts for you, or Gantt charts, or bar charts, or 3D. You can ask it to do 3D graphical charts. It looks amazing. It looks really cool. You could do all those types of charts that Excel could do. This neat type of pivotal diagram or chart or table, it could do it. Data analysis is one of my favorite ones for sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
obviously all of these things we're talking about are chatbots. And I know that like since the 80s and 90s, they've had medical aids where you give your symptoms and a computer algorithm will kind of give you its best guess at what the illness is. My question is, how far are we away from professional products? So you can go online and say, okay, I need to get a boilerplate contract for this particular application, and these are the specifics of it. And I want to rent the computer for a few minutes to write that up. How far away are we from those kinds of applications where they're essentially starting to replace lawyers, engineers, and doctors?
Well, again, they'll make their job better. For people, okay, they have a lot of saying like lawyers and stuff that the beginner lawyers that just kind of analyze cases and to see where they are and what exists. Yes, these chat GPTs can do it for you, but you have to remember again, the best way to utilize generative AI is for the human to have some type of knowledge. If the human does not have that type of knowledge and doing something at work or whatnot, and cannot make a good decision off of everything it's producing, it's probably not the right person to be using that generative AI tool. Now, if you have that and you customize it extremely well, or trained it for your organization, like a law firm or whatnot, or specifically in a certain type of medicine, yeah, you can do that. Now, what's happening is that they're taking these large language models and they're trying to make it small. They're working on that right now. So small in the sense that I only want to use it for this specific organization, for this specific department in healthcare, for this specific types of cases. Those would be like small language models because you're going to have a large language model. It's all that information's there, but you don't really need all that information, right? So you don't want it to get confused, even though you can train and say, don't go out the box, don't look this way, but it's just more secure that way. So in the sense of people training models to do those type of applications for you, yes, it's on its way and it's been done, it's doing well, but it's only been doing well because of the people behind it that's augmentating this innovation behind it. This person knows this. This person has this knowledge. This person can make a better decision. This person knows that what's produced was actual crap, right? And they're not going to do that. Then they have to retrain the model, right? It's bias, it's racist, it's prejudiced, it's sexist, right? It can be all of that, but you have to have some kind of a data scientist and
Yeah,
other
that-
people in a multidisciplinary approach to make sure that you're minimizing all of that as much as you can. You'll never be 100%. There's always going to be some type of bias no matter what, but you can do that as best as you can, and it's only getting better. That's all I could say. But it is existing out there, and it's only getting better. But it's for those big systems out there that have those resources to back up their training model. If you don't have those resources, or you're not using a good program model, or you're not even not using a good data scientist, like I said, it matters the quality of your work, right? So, but they do exist out there.
Some years ago, many years ago now, a book by the name of the book by the title of Megatrends was written, and it was forecasting that with all of the post-secondary institutions that were being built and all of the financing that was being spent on research, that we were going to enter a period in this century where knowledge was massive. And our problem would not be knowledge per se, but how to synthesize all of what was taking place. And it's so interesting to see how technology has followed the gaps, followed the need, and ChatGPT and artificial intelligence have arrived at a time when mankind is being overwhelmed. And Randall pointed this out numerous times, how mankind has been overwhelmed by the amount of knowledge or the amount of information that is flooded to us each day. But with this tool, we have the capacity to do synthesis. We have the capacity to simplify if we learn how to use it, and as long as it doesn't abuse us. So I want to thank you, Kristian. This was extraordinary, and an excellent dialogue that followed after. I think we've got a fairly knowledgeable crew here that have been part of this story now since almost the origin of ChatGPT. So we're all riding this tsunami without any idea where it's ultimately going to take us. But I invite you to come back in a year from now, and let's see just how far we've progressed.